Bougainville, spring 1943. Skilled Japanese aviators, masters at outmaneuvering every enemy plane across the Pacific, casually dismiss a strange new American fighter as merely another slow Hellcat, until twisted metal and shattered canopies demand a shocking reassessment. The aircraft's designation becomes a dreaded whisper in war rooms. Corsair, the whistling death. Equipped with such tremendous engine power and devastating firepower, it didn't just change aerial combat, it completely rewrote Japan's entire air warfare strategy. But how did this machine they initially laughed at transform into the terror that crushed the spirit of an entire empire? Radio communications above Bougainville during spring 1943 buzzed with confusion. Japanese squadron commanders, experts at identifying every American aircraft profile, recorded observations of an unfamiliar blue fighter but wrongly classified it as simply another Grumman Hellcat. Intelligence reports from Rabaul repeated this same error. Records described hostile F-6F variants displaying strange velocity and vertical assault tactics. Airborne pilots, though, felt something wasn't right. The initial hint came not from instruction manuals, but from the mayhem of combat. A glimpse of curved wings bent like a bird in flight, yet anything but elegant. One pilot's journal from a Hikotai noted, "Blue curved wings. Initially, we assumed they were new Hellcats, but their velocity and rate of climb seemed impossible." Bewilderment grew as additional battles occurred. Japanese aviators, accustomed to outturning Wildcats and Airacobras, discovered themselves under attack from above by these puzzling raiders. Intelligence came back describing how the unknown American fighter would plunge downward, unleash a devastating burst of gunfire, then disappear before any response could be organized. Damaged planes struggled homeward, filled with .50 caliber bullet holes, armored glass refusing to break. Self-sealing fuel systems containing fires that should have destroyed any Zero Squadron records from Bougainville documented casualties with brief notes. One aircraft missing. Pilot went silent following first contact. The reverse gull-wing design, once ridiculed as clumsy, became the trademark of a danger that Japanese flyers could no longer dismiss. The Corsair had entered the war, bringing with it the realization that previous beliefs about American fighters were completely wrong. Japanese technical experts and pilots, trained to judge threats based on maneuverability and mass, found the Corsair's appearance puzzling. The reverse gull-wing shape, initially mocked as awkward, wasn't a design mistake. Technical documents captured after the war show its true function. A massive 13-foot Hamilton Standard propeller, powered by the Pratt & Whitney R2800 double WASP engine, required ground clearance that normal landing gear couldn't provide. To accommodate this power plant, Vought's engineers angled the wing downward, then sharply upward, allowing the Corsair to sit high without losing structural integrity or creating extra air resistance. On blueprints, it appeared like a compromise. In battle, it proved revolutionary. The R2800 engine, producing more than 2,000 horsepower, provided the Corsair with climbing ability and acceleration that Japanese pilots had never encountered. Intelligence from the Curie Naval Arsenal called the engine beyond our ability to duplicate an existing aircraft. Types. But pure speed was just one advantage. Japanese. Gunners watched their bullets deflect. Off the Corsair's armored pilot seat and bulletproof windshield, some sections nearly 2 inches thick. Self-sealing fuel tanks kept these planes airborne after damage that would have turned a Zero into flames. Early Corsair cockpits, nicknamed bird cages due to their heavy frame construction, caused American pilots to complain about limited vision. Japanese intelligence saw this thick framing as a defensive flaw. However, after-action reports revealed something different. Pilots who lived through encounters described the Corsair as iron-plated, capable of absorbing damage while striking back with .650 caliber machine guns, every aspect criticized in design reviews. Every pound of armor plating, every unusual angle, became a reason Japanese aircrews grew to dread the bent-wing fighter. By late 1944, Japanese naval strategists confronted an impossible situation. Corsairs, previously dismissed as land-only aircraft, started showing up in attack formations launched straight from American aircraft carriers. The established belief, repeated in intelligence reports and technical briefings, had been certain. The blue fighter with bent wings was incapable of carrier landings. But United States Navy deck records revealed a completely different reality. Following multiple engineering improvements, better tailhooks, enhanced landing procedures, the Corsair's carrier accident rates fell to equal those of the reliable Hellcat. For Japanese command staff, this represented a strategic nightmare. A captured post-war document, frank in its assessment, stated, "We assumed the Blue Fighter was restricted to land bases. Now they launch from the ocean. There is nowhere to hide." Carrier-launched Corsair squadrons expanded American striking power throughout the Pacific, hitting objectives previously considered protected by sheer distance. Each new encounter required rewriting defensive strategies. What had started as an engineering oddity had evolved into a symbol of American tactical flexibility. Swift, heavily weaponized, and now deployable wherever the fleet could navigate. Corsair pilots brought combat methods that Japanese military doctrine had never prepared for. Rather than engaging in turning battles, Marine flyers would climb to high altitude, then dive steeply downward, combining gravity with engine power to attack at velocities the Zero and Oscar couldn't handle. The F4U's maximum speed, measured at 446 mph, left Japanese fighters desperately trying to keep pace. Their own aircraft frames began vibrating dangerously above 250 mph, with roll authority disappearing exactly when it was needed most. During these critical moments, the Corsair's 650 caliber machine guns delivered firepower and range that surpassed anything the opposition possessed. Japanese pilots attempting to follow these diving attacks risked complete structural breakdown. Those who remained at higher altitudes became sitting ducks for the following slashing attack. Post-war engineering reports from the Curie Arsenal expressed amazement at the Corsair's ability to maintain control at extreme speeds, describing its energy-based fighting methods as impossible to counter with present aircraft designs. For every Japanese veteran pilot, the harsh truth became obvious. The bent-wing fighter dictated the conditions of every engagement, and seldom came out second best. The first alert never arrived through radar systems or radio transmissions, but through the atmosphere itself, a sharp, climbing whistle that sliced through clouds before any blue shape became visible. Japanese airmen named it the sound of doom. Ground troops learned to drop flat at the faintest sound, understanding that the Corsair's arrival meant no cover offered safety. Above Okinawa, combat air patrols circled at high altitude, engine noise reverberating across the island. When kamikaze formations assembled for their final missions, Corsairs would plunge from the sky in a storm of bullets and velocity, breaking up groups before they could coordinate. Surviving pilots reported complete chaos as their units fell apart, every man fighting for survival alone. Radio contact broke down, military discipline collapsed. Ground force accounts gathered during post-war questioning describe a terrible scene. The instant the whistling started, soldiers rushed for caves or trenches, leaving behind weapons and positions. Marines below called the Corsair their guardian angel, witnessing rockets and .50 caliber rounds devastate enemy formations. The mental damage proved permanent. Japanese flight commanders documented a threat that announced itself only through sound, leaving nothing but quiet behind. By the closing months of 1944, Japanese Air Command confronted a difficult truth. Intelligence briefings that once carried confident language now delivered a very different tone. Internal reports started warning against direct confrontations with the blue bent-wing fighter. Field assessments described Corsair units as practically immune to conventional weapons, and squadron commanders received quiet instructions to focus on bomber interception or retreat, rather than meeting American fighters in head-to-head combat. Based on Allied translations of seized briefings, pilots received orders stating, "Engage only when conditions favor success. Avoid diving attacks. Report sightings without delay." This change, never officially documented in written orders, spread through verbal briefings and unit meetings. Military language had transformed. The Corsair demanded respect, even terror. For numerous pilots, this marked the first official surrender in aerial warfare, an admission that certain battles were no longer worth the cost. Post-war evaluation revealed the Corsair's remarkable legacy. According to official Navy and Marine Corps documentation, Corsair pilots destroyed more than 2,140 Japanese aircraft while losing only 189 in combat, a kill ratio exceeding 11-1. No other Allied fighter in the Pacific achieved this performance. Japanese technical assessments, once dismissive, became lessons in military adaptation. Late-war aircraft designs like the Ki-84 and Shiden Kai borrowed extensively from the Corsair's approach. emphasizing speed, firepower, and armor over maneuverability alone. However, these developments came too late to change the outcome. The bent-wing fighter's influence extended far beyond victory statistics. It demanded a complete rethinking of air combat, established a template for future fighters, and became the aircraft that shattered Japan's experienced air force. Japanese battle reports and technical documents, initially scornful, evolved into warnings about the Corsair's extreme speed, devastating firepower, and protective armor. Papers from 1943 reveal early bewilderment, while subsequent intelligence summaries identified the Corsair by its distinctive gull wings and recommended new survival tactics. Captured documents verify an increasing focus on escape and preservation over traditional dogfighting courage. In the Pacific theater, the Corsair's appearance signaled the start of the final chapter for Japan's control of the skies.